or a G behind your name. It was a nonpartisan election. So nonpartisan elections, they never got involved in. I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. These people still decide all the policy for the city, all the policy for the county. So I got actively involved in recruiting candidates, progressive candidates for city council, county board, and school board. And I did not care whether they were Democrats or Green Party people, or whether they weren't affiliated with any group at all, as long as they were progressive. I discovered a group called Wisconsin Progress, which was started about 8 years ago, and they were started with the mission of recruiting, training, and electing progressives to local offices. They also don't care if you're a Democrat, a Green Party, or an independent, as long as you're progressive. And they provided excellent training for our candidates. We have, the results are in the pudding, I guess. Our city council is now extremely progressive. I would say there's only 2 people on the city council who are not in the progressive camp. So 9 out of 11 are progressive. 7 out of 4 are women. I don't know of another city council in the state that has that proportion.
Wait,
7 out of 11 are women.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
So we have 7 women, 4 men on the city council now, and the council president is a woman, Melissa Johnson. So that was a big change as well. So we've been successful at that. I am focusing on trying to continue to encourage people to run for local office. The concentration this upcoming election cycle is going to be with the county board, because that is a body, as Bobby can verify, is extremely conservative still, where we cannot get anything progressive passed for the most part. So we need to change the people. I like to tell you that you can go to as many marches as you want, you can participate in as many protests as you want, you can write as many letters as you want. You're not going to change anything the county board does as long as the same people are on the council. They're not going to vote any differently. You have to change the people. So what I'm going to pass out now is something, candidate training that the Wisconsin Progress is putting on June 24th. This is training that they put on for people who are just thinking about running. They're not committed to running. They do candidate training later on in the year for people who are committed to running. This is just for introduce people to the idea of, if I am thinking of running, what do I need to be aware of? On the back, second side of that paper I handed out, you'll see their training schedule. They come to Stevens Point June 24th. That training is going to be held at the Portage County Democratic Party. You do not need to be a Democrat to attend. Bobby Gifford got trained there as well. So now, in the end...
Yeah, I even said, like, in the meeting, you know, I'm a Green Party person. I hope nobody holds that against me. It was fine. Yeah.
No, I do have some, there are some people in the Democratic Party who, will always mutter and say, well, why the hell are we helping these people who are not members of the party? And the point I make is that's not a condition to get this training. You just have to be a progressive.
Yeah,
now,
I think Wisconsin Progress has a mission to be nonpartisan. Okay? They state in their...
You can go to their website and they explain it all there. So they will focus on anyone. Now, if you're going to go through the training, they do generally have a questionnaire you have to fill out, because they're going to filter you out if they feel that you're not really progressive enough. They're going to filter you out, and you can't participate in their training.
They don't want Tea Party people.
Obviously, but we've had times where people are progressive on one issue but not on others, and they may not make it through the filter. But I want to make you all aware of that training, invite you to attend, and if you know other people around the area who might be interested, pass the information on to them. The training is superb. We've had excellent results from people who've gone to the training and have followed the procedures that they've suggested. As you set up your campaign, if someone is running, they're also going to be to continue consulting with you every step of the way to make sure you're following up and doing the things that you ought to be doing. And some of it is pretty basic, and some of it people have a hard time accepting. But rule number one is you don't talk to everybody. You just focus on people who vote. Because in the election for county board, you're typically going to have 20% of the electorate will vote in that April election. 80% will not. So you start by taking a look at past history and identify who's going to actually vote. Because I only have so much time in my day to knock on so many doors. If I'm going to knock on doors, I want to knock on the door of someone who's likely to vote. Number two is if you are taking a very strong progressive stance, you focus on people who are going to be predicted to be leaning towards your viewpoints, so you don't waste time talking to a Tea Party person and thinking that you're finally going to convince them that climate change is real. If you think you're going to have a lot of success doing that, go at it, but I don't see it.
So do we do like voter registration? Do we look at that, someone that leans progressive, even
Yes.
kind of
The list that our people have used is a list of voters who are identified to be, and excuse the reality, it comes from the Democratic Party, but they make it available to anyone who's running. They're predicted to be strong Democrats or leaning Democrats.
kind of like the van system that they have for the Democrats, or the mirror campaigns.
That's
for
exactly what it
usually
is.
Okay.
It is the van.
Eric has done a lot.
I've done a little
door
canvassing,
knocking and
a little
stuff.
bit.
It is. So that's what it's all about. So number one, I want to just put that in front of you to think about attending, participating. On the county board, we have a lot of very conservative board members, particularly in the outlying areas like Rosholt, New Hope, Grant, Sharon, Belmont, Buena Vista. We're looking for candidates from outlying areas who might be interested in running. But really, in Plover's been a very challenging place for us to find progressives to run. So those are some of the areas. Now, I will never discourage someone who wants to run from running. So if one of you wants to run against Bobby Gifford, I'm not going to tell you not to. When there's two progressives running, I just say, great, fine, here's the training, go at it. May the better person win, let the voters decide. But I'm not going to be recruiting someone to run against Bobby Gifford. I will recruit people to run against Jim Stroik or Jakowski or some Dale O'Brien and Plover, who we know are really anti-environment board members. So we'll actively recruit from them. If someone comes out of the woodwork and wants to run, that's fine too.
Yeah, to get an idea how conservative these guys are, when that the issue with restoring the trout habitat on his farm
With Isherwood Farms. Yeah.
the chair of that committee said right at the beginning, we're not allowing any debate. You're not allowed to say anything derogatory about any candidates. So you can't say that they're
That's
a
Paul
corporate
Krzyzewski
tool.
or something.
Right. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do
Well,
that.
ironically, he said you weren't allowed to talk about drainage. So
They tried to shut you down.
Well, he said I was talking about drainage, and we're not here to talk about drainage. We're here to talk about the candidates for the drainage board. And so when I talked about needing someone who was going to understand different ways of approaching drainage, he tried to interrupt me. I had to say, I'm not talking about drainage. I'm talking about the qualities that are needed in a board member on the drainage board. And I went and proceeded, but they will try to shut you up every way they can.
His
They
name
reminded me
is
of the state legislator when the Republicans shut down the Democrats.
and that's his name is like Paul
Barry Chakowski.
Chakowski, and he's the head of
He's the head
vice
of the
president
Agriculture Committee.
he's like vice president or vice CEO on the Wisconsin Potato and Vegetable Growers as well, right?
No, I don't think so.
I
Not that I'm aware of.
I did some research on him, and he's also involved. He's on the board.
Okay, I don't know that.
Well, I do a little cross reference.
Okay.
This is reference.
Really?
But
did not
I've been researching what you've been talking about just in the paper.
Okay. So, to kind of shift gears, this is overall recruiting, so I wanted you to be aware of that. Secondly, we're talking about now the drainage board. Portage County has a drainage board responsible for regulating the drainage of waters in the Buena Vista Marsh. That was started in 1905.
Oh my gosh.
Their people, their concept of drainage is a big wide open ditch with nothing in it. They want no trees or bushes growing there. They want no grasses growing.
No
They
alder.
want to be able to come in and spray herbicide to kill any tall grasses that are growing. Justin Isherwood is a farmer with some sustainable values. He has restored the trout habitat on the Isherwood Creek. So there were some creeks in this district that predated the drainage board. The drainage board at the turn of the century did straighten all those creeks out so they don't look like creeks, they look like ditches.
Channelized. Yeah.
But he began to restore the trout habitat. After the fact, he got a permit from the DNR to do it. The drainage board last year told him he needed to remove everything he had put in the creek to restore the trout habitat. They told him if he didn't do it, they were going to come in with heavy equipment and dredge it out and give him the bill for $50,000.
They're still looking at that at July 15th is when they can move on that, I think is what they said, right? So
Well,
they're looking between July 15th and September to do something there.
Well, actually, the case is going to a judge in Clark County because the local judges recused themselves, and that's likely to go to the judge at the end of this month. But the drainage board had a opening, or actually the term of the Paul Slevitz came to an end. He applied for reappointment. The Agriculture Committee meets. They nominate 3 people who they have to submit to the Portage County judges in order of preference. And then the Portage County judges will take one of the 3 and name them onto the drainage board. We're trying to get them to take the number 2 person that was nominated, Jacob Prater, who's an assistant professor of soil and waste management at the UWSP, over this guy, Paul Slevitz. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, the way the Ag Committee worked, initially when they were having this meeting to interview the applicants, they told us that was going to be done in closed session. I and another person challenged them and said, well, why are you doing this in closed session? There's no reason to have a closed session. I contacted the county board chair, Phil Eidsvog, and he intervened and told them they couldn't meet in closed session. It had to be an open session to the public. Secondly, when they did the appointment paperwork, at the meeting, I then asked them, I'd like to get copies of the application materials that people have submitted, plus the handouts, because some of the candidates, applicants handed out materials to the committee. I was told I couldn't have them. I said, well, why can't I have them? This is a public board. They're applying for a public board. That's confidential. And then he told me if I wanted them, I had to submit an open records request.
Wow.
So the bottom line is I did submit an open records request, and Phil Eidsvog intervened and ordered the Corporation Council to share the information with me. And then yesterday and today I received all the information. So I have all the application materials that people submitted. They redacted. If someone wrote a letter in support of someone, they crossed out their name or something, but that's fine. But the materials are available. So that's the kind of hoops that they're making you go through as they try to intimidate you and shut you down from participating in the process. What I'm handing out now is a letter that I wrote to the judges asking them to appoint Jacob Prater. So I wanted to give you a copy of the package I gave to them. So the letter gives you an idea of the points I felt were important. On the next page, you have the 2002 court ruling which lays out an agreement between the DNR and the Drainage Board, because the DNR and the Drainage Board, the DNR was in conflict with the Drainage Board in 2002. So this is the 2002 ruling that laid out how the Drainage Board was to proceed.